Hey everybody, Mature Simmer here. So welcome back to the VFR TBM 850 Around the World Tour here for Mother's Day weekend 2026 in leg 41, obviously continuing in Africa. Go ahead, get ourselves up and operational. Again, we'll get our nav, strobe, all of our instruments. Get EFS turned on. Get our fuel select to auto. Same thing with auxiliary BP. All right, we will get our radio master on so that all that can get going. Whoops. Ay. Does this thing start up? Gets a little crazy. All right, we'll get ourselves set to 2500 as always. All right, engine's at 98%, so it's wearing a little bit, which we would expect. I'm going to go ahead and import our flight plan. Taking a little bit of time here. Interesting. All right. That's probably the longest it's taken that I recall. But anyway, we've got that. Got bleed to auto. We'll set the air on. We'll set that on. We've got that. We're going to set autopilot on so that it can go through its test. Whoops. And then we're going to go there and again set ourselves to about 800. Seems to be a good result. And we'll then get up here. Right. We're going to set our propeller up. Then we're going to set our starters on an auto. Whoops. And that should start rotating. Again, NG getting to there. We'll get ourselves to low. All right, so should, that got pretty high. But I think we're okay. We'll get ourselves to high. Let's just make sure. Yeah. Otherwise, we got to repair the engine, which is just a button press, but all right. And then we want pitot heat set, and at this point, should be able to turn the starter off. And all our lights, except the parking brake, are off, which is what we want. Change the nav to GPS. All right, so you can see 5 waypoints. Not nearly as exciting as one might think. So I don't want you getting too excited that, oh goodness, we've got all kinds of things to see. We're basically following a river, but you know, we can only do what we can do here. Man, it keeps like blinking things on. That is just a little odd, but anyway. All right. So 5963, we're always verifying that to show that things have changed. Fuel selectors on automatic. And then we are going to want to get ourselves to, I guess, ground. So we'll go ahead, get our radio set, 121.9er. And we'll call in VFR to Yaounde, Cameroon. So let's do that. Mortala ground, November 191 Mike Alpha. Requesting VFR at 2,500 feet to Yaounde, Cameroon.
November 1 Mike Alpha. VFR approved at 2,500 feet. Say parking for taxi.
All right, so I think we're set. Ground, November 191 Mike Alpha, ready for taxi.
November 1 Mike Alpha. Runway 18 right taxi via Alpha, Alpha 1.
Runway 18 right, taxi via Alpha, Alpha 1. November 191 Mike Alpha. All right, so let me get over here. Zoom in on my Navigraph so that we can, so let's see, Alpha 1. Okay, so we're doing 18 right. Okay, so we're just heading up from where we're at. Easy enough. All right, just trying to get the view set here so we can show you our route. All right, so for leg 41, we're here. We're going to be taking off and basically heading east, a little bit south. Still not quite at the equator. We're at about 6 to 7 degrees north. So we're getting to the point where we will, obviously, I assume, cross that at some point. And you can see, relatively lengthy. I see that, distance to go by Fly Studio overlay is being reported at 521. And if we go to our information, I'm going to go ahead at this point and we're going to start the taxi just so we can get going. Come on. There we go. Just have to kind of kick it in gear a little bit. I forget what it's called. There's some sort of a setting that basically, requires you to get the throttle to 15% before it will go. So we're going to go around this guy. Not sure that we did, but basically here we are going, and then we will head on up. But yeah, total flight distance, because of, once again, how the VFR Tour flight plans work, is 638 nautical miles. So a little bit over 100 nautical miles, nothing crazy. Oh, we've got someone coming in for a landing here, looks like.
5 November Oscar Quebec Yankee ready to taxi.
Again, this is not, I don't know that we have a whole lot of small airports here. We're moving along pretty handily. Again, lights in the middle. Always a sign of just kind of a standard airport, not necessarily being perfect. but I assume we have a lot of those on this trip. So, yeah, I wasn't sure once we got to Africa what to expect, if we'd be having, you know, kind of bush pilot airports, stuff like that. Don't know. But this should be Alpha 1 here. And then we'll take off, and we have
November 1 Mike
217.
Alpha. Contact tower on 118.1. Have a
200,
good morning.
215, 217, 216 nautical miles. It says 217. It's 216 in the flight plan, but some of that is just rotating around the airport.
Pushback and start approved. NUA 500.
All right, so we're gonna stop there. All right. Murtala Tower, November 191, Mike Alpha. Runway 18 right, ready for takeoff.
Approaching runway 18 right.
Man, this is
November
doing...
1901, Mike Alpha, Lagos. Tower, runway 18 right. Line up and wait. Caution await turbulence.
Line up and wait, November 1901, Mike Alpha. Alright, so I think because that other plane just landed, it's basically giving us a bit of a delay. So we're going to turn on nav. I'm going to go ahead and get the yaw damper on.
On runway 18 right. Remaining 2,700 feet.
November 1 Mike Alpha, runway 18 right. Winds 170 at 7. Cleared for takeoff.
Runway 18 right, cleared for takeoff. November 191, Mike Alpha. Alright, let's... I'm like, what is going on here? It's doing weird blinky stuff. I put the throttle forward. It did not respond immediately, so I'm a little worried. Do we have some weird bugaboo running around in the back here? But, okay. Airspeed alive. Here we go. Getting close. 80. That's probably a nice, safe level to take off. We'll go runway heading. And get ourselves moving along here. A little bumpy, choppy, all that. Alright, so we're going to do autopilot. And we're going to do vertical speed. So we should be good there. Get our flaps up now.
Turkish 6423 short of 18 right, ready for departure.
And
Turkish
so we're going to
6423,
turn
winds 170 at 7, runway 18 right, cleared for takeoff.
a good ways and head out
18
over,
right, cleared for takeoff, Turkish 6423.
over the city. The airport is gone behind us. That was the far runway that we were at. There's another runway here. So, big airport. But we are there, and we are on our way. I do not know, again, if we're going to be crossing anything. I don't think we will. Just looking at a general relief map, I think it's a little lighter. So yeah, we're just trying to get to our flight plan. If we go here now, go to terrain, range out, I think. Give us a little more distance, so there we go. We're obviously going to start to drop away the yellows and the greens as we go.
IBOM 551, winds 170 at 7, runway 18 right, cleared to land.
But we're going to have...
Cleared to land 18 right, IBOM 551.
Alright, so I am going to change myself to CTAF now so that we're not listening to a lot of radio chatter, because that is not what this series is about. It is about enjoying the beauty of the earth and where we're going. So, all right, we've got that down. These are now to green, and I would think those will ultimately vanish as well. All right, so if we go to our narrative, as I said, we're not going to quite get what we might think with 5 waypoints, but we have take off from Lagos and head northeast along the Lagos Lagoon, over the farmlands and jungles, to the small city of Lakoja at the junction of the Niger and Benue rivers. So that is where we are going for waypoint 1, 211 nautical miles now away. So we have a long way to go. It's a VFR series, so we show you the whole flight, but I don't yak the whole time. You know, I did not know. I just knew that, hey, after leg 40, there's some waypoints, so I thought, oh, maybe it'll show us some stuff. But we may have many legs of just kind of here to there as we were doing. It's just, I think it's giving us maybe a little bit of a better visual by following one of the major rivers in Africa as we go. But as we're getting close here to the equator and all that, we're now out of the Sahara from last time. So we're clear of the desert. One thing I do want to do is, again, get my TBM flight going. So, all right, didn't quite hit. We maxed it a little bit. So let's back off a tiny bit. Because redlining, it's not bad, but now it's interesting. Oh, because I don't have my wheels up. I'm like, why are we only going 171? That would be why. So I'm assuming now we will accelerate nicely once everything's up and tucked away. There we go. All right, so we've already increased our airspeed by 15 knots. Because, yeah, we should be going around 220. And, like, I know I put my flaps up, but we had the drag of the wheels. It's been a while since I've landed without the wheels. Hopefully we won't have that to deal with again. Alright, so now we're at 210-ish. Yeah, just crossed 210. It's slowed down for a bit. Way more populated than I would have assumed, I guess. There's a lot of buildings here.
At our 2 o'clock, about 3 kilometers out, you'll spot Dream Park Cinemas in Ikorodu. While it might sound like just a place to catch the latest blockbuster, it's actually a bit of a local landmark, serving as a hub for entertainment and community events. The cinema is known for drawing in families and film lovers from all over Lagos,
I don't know.
especially on weekends when the place comes alive with laughter and excitement. It's not just about movies. There are often live performances and special events, making it a cultural hotspot in the area. If you look closely, you might even see the colorful crowds gathering outside, especially during big premieres or local festivals.
So yeah, so my uninformed, uneducated stupidity, yeah, just has the standard, I think, Western view of, oh, Africa is just a bunch of hunters running around chasing lions. You know, obviously I know in general that's not all true, but yeah, this is a lot bigger city and stuff, and obviously, you know, they just talked about what we would consider a very modern type of thing. So, well, let Sarah do her thing. I will probably have her, once we get closer, I'll load up the tour. Because I did pick some little cities and towns nearby each of the waypoints. I don't know if they're big, small. You know, they were things that were kind of yellow on the Navigraph chart, which I think is pretty populated. So I'm sure we'll learn a little bit about the area. But if I let her do her thing now, she'll give you some information as we fly. Looks like we have a little bit less than an hour. It's showing 47 minutes. We are kind of up to speed now. Let me just make sure we're not, we're kind of redlining, so let's back this off a little bit again. Because, yeah, we're going 235, which is nice. All right, now I'm going to move it a bit, back up. I'd like to kind of be on the line. I don't want to make this flight take super, super long. It's a pretty good length. So it could be bumping up against 3 hours if we're not careful. And again, it is what it is. But at this point, I'm going to go ahead and be quiet. And, you know, we'll see. I don't know if the legs are going to have some more things. I assume by the time we get to South Africa or something, there'll be a few things. But I could be wrong, and I don't know if, you know, are we going to go now across Africa, kind of like we did, or are we going to stay around the edges and whatever? I don't know where he's going to take us with this tour. Once again, that's part of why I'm doing it, and hopefully why you're following along. So I will see you in a bit.
Since there are no specific points of interest found nearby, let's talk about the closest major city, Lagos. Lagos is Nigeria's largest city and one of the fastest growing cities in the world. It started as a small Yoruba settlement on Lagos Island and was later colonized by the Portuguese in the 15th century, who named it Lagos after a coastal town in Portugal. The city became a major center for trade, especially during the British colonial era, and served as Nigeria's capital until 1991. Since there aren't any specific landmarks right below us, let's talk about the closest airport, Ibadan Airport, also known as Ibadan Domestic Airport. It opened in June 1982 and has played a key role in connecting southwestern Nigeria to the rest of the country. The airport is especially important for regional flights and is a lifeline for business travelers and tourists alike. Since there aren't any specific landmarks right below us, let's talk about the closest major city, Ibadan. Ibadan is one of the largest cities in Nigeria and has a fascinating past. It was founded in 1829 as a war camp for warriors coming from different Yoruba groups, and it quickly grew into a major center for trade and administration. The city is famous for its brown rooftops, which you can spot from the air, almost like a patchwork quilt. Ibadan is also home to Nigeria's first university, the University of Ibadan, established in 1948. Since there aren't any specific landmarks right below us, let's talk about the closest airport, Akure Airport. Akure Airport opened in 1986 and serves as a key gateway to southwestern Nigeria. It's not just a place for takeoffs and landings, it's a lifeline for the region, connecting people for business, family visits, and even the occasional adventurous tourist. The airport is known for its single runway and the lush greenery that surrounds it. So if you ever wanted to see a runway that looks like it was dropped right into the middle of a tropical garden, this is it. And here's something. During the rainy season, the area around the airport gets so green, it almost looks like the runway is floating on a sea of grass. At our 12 o'clock, about 4 kilometers out, you'll spot a bridge stretching across Araromi Street in Akure South. Now, bridges might not seem like the most glamorous landmarks, but this one is a bit of a local hero, especially during the rainy season, when it keeps the city connected and prevents people from having to swim to work. Bridges like this are vital for daily life, and you can almost imagine the stories it could tell, like the time a herd of goats decided to stage a traffic jam, or when it became the unofficial viewing platform for local festivals. From up here, you get a great view of how it links different parts of the city, almost like stitching together a patchwork quilt. Since there aren't any specific landmarks right below us, let's talk about the closest major city, Akure. Akure is the capital of Ondo State and has a fascinating history that goes back centuries. It was originally founded by the descendants of Oduduwa, the legendary progenitor of the Yoruba people. The city is known for its lush landscapes and is surrounded by rolling hills and dense forests, which look especially stunning from the air. Akure is also famous for its traditional palaces and vibrant markets, where you can find everything from handcrafted beads to delicious local snacks. Since there aren't any specific landmarks right below us, let's talk about the closest city, Ilorin. Ilorin is the capital of Kwara State and was founded in 1450 as a provincial military headquarters of the ancient Oyo Empire. Over the centuries, it became a melting pot of Yoruba, Hausa, and Fulani cultures, which you can see in its architecture and local traditions. The city is famous for its beautiful mosques, especially the Central Mosque with its striking minarets that are visible from the air. Ilorin is also known for its potters and traditional crafts, so if you ever visit, don't forget to check out the local markets for some handmade souvenirs. star 1 o'clock right below us, you'll spot Ihima Stadium in Adavi. This stadium is a real gathering point for local sports fans and community events. While it might not be as famous as some of Nigeria's mega stadiums, it's a place where local football matches can get pretty intense. Think of it as the heart of weekend excitement for the area. Built to serve the growing population of Adavi, the stadium has seen everything from youth tournaments to lively celebrations, and here's something. During big matches, you can sometimes hear the cheers from miles away, echoing across the town. Since there aren't any specific landmarks right below us, let's talk about the closest city, Lakoja. Lakoja is actually a pretty big deal in Nigerian history. It sits at the confluence of the Niger and Benue rivers, making it a strategic spot for trade and travel for centuries. In fact, Lakoja was the first administrative capital of modern Nigeria during British colonial rule. The city is also famous for Mount Patty, where Lord Lugard, the first Governor General of Nigeria, had his residence.
Sarah, could you please load VFR 850 Around the World Tour, leg 41?
Absolutely. We're loading up the VFR TBM Around the World, leg 41 tour. Our first stop is Lakoja, which is about 21 kilometers ahead. Get ready for some fascinating sights and stories as we make our way there.
Alright, so I know she did obviously just talk about it, so we'll see if we get anything new. That would be obviously nice. But we're within 9 miles, and again, it's the confluence of the rivers, so we can see things happening there. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to turn south here, and for the next 4 waypoints, follow the Niger to the city of Onitsha, known for its river port and as an economic hub for commerce, industry, and education. So the waypoints are just going to get us down the river. The Niger at 2,600 miles is the 3rd longest river in Africa and an important trade route. We first crossed it just a few miles south of Timbuktu. You'll find many small villages and farms along its banks, in addition to forests and grassy plains. So that's what we have to cover the waypoints, and then when we turn, we have that we can finish everything else up. But you can see, it looks like, again, it said it's the confluence of the rivers, so I'm thinking one's coming kind of from the north, one's coming from where it's flowing from the east, and then they just head south for a ways, which is what we're going to do. So this should be Lakoja. Alright, so 4 nautical miles, so it should start giving us some info shortly.
At our 6 o'clock, about 5 kilometers away, we're flying right by Lakoja. This city is perched at the meeting point of the Niger and Benue rivers, which makes it look like 2 giant snakes having a friendly chat. Lakoja was actually the first administrative capital of modern Nigeria under British colonial rule. Imagine all the paperwork that must have happened here. Mount Patty, which towers over the city, is where Lord Lugard, the first Governor General of Nigeria, used to live. There's even a legend that the name Nigeria was coined right here on Mount Patty. If you squint, you might just see the confluence of the rivers sparkling in the sunlight. It's a sight that has inspired explorers and traders for centuries.
Alright, so I have other towns. I have no idea. They weren't in the narrative, as you heard. You just said we're going to follow the river, but I have other towns that we're going to hit. The next one, 23 kilometers. I think this is like 15 miles, a little bit less. We're down to 21 kilometers already. But we're basically going to start following the river. So there you go. We've got 12 nautical miles. And so I'm going to go ahead and kind of let her do her thing. You'll be able to follow the other waypoints. We're going to waypoint 2, so we have 2, 3, 4, and 5. And that will, just basically keep us moving down the river. And she'll make comments as we get to each one. They're, I don't know, about 20, 30, sometimes 40 nautical miles apart. And then we've got a pretty long leg to the airport. So I will see you in a bit.
At our 2 o'clock, about 5 kilometers out, you'll see Ajaokuta. This town is famous for the Ajaokuta Steel Company, which was once envisioned as the backbone of Nigeria's industrial future. Construction began in 1979 with the help of the Soviet Union, and the complex is so big, it has its own internal railway system. Talk about a place where you could get lost on your lunch break. Although the steel plant has had a rocky history and isn't fully operational, it's still one of the largest steel mills in Africa and a symbol of big dreams. The area around Ajaokuta is also dotted with lush greenery and the Niger River, making it a striking sight from above. If you squint, you might even spot the massive structures glinting in the sun, looking a bit like a sci-fi movie set dropped in the middle of Nigeria. our 2 o'clock, about 6 kilometers away, you'll spot Idah. This town is perched right on the banks of the Niger River and is famous for being the traditional headquarters of the Igala kingdom. The Ata of Igala, the king, still holds court here, and the royal palace is a sight to behold, though from up here, it might just look like a really fancy roof. Idah has been a center of trade and power for centuries, thanks to its strategic river location. Local legend says the town was founded by a Butueje, a hunter who followed a mystical white antelope to the spot. If you look closely, you might even see the bustling river port, which has been bringing goods and people together since long before there were highways. At our 1 o'clock, about 6 kilometers away, you'll spot Annegbette. This small town might not make the cover of travel magazines, but it's a classic example of rural life in Nigeria. The area is surrounded by lush farmland and is known for its traditional markets, where you can find everything from yams to handcrafted tools. Annegbette has been around for generations, with families passing down stories and land through the years. Imagine the family reunions. The town is a great reminder of how communities thrive off the land. And from up here, you can see the patchwork of fields that keep everyone fed. If you listen closely, you might even hear a rooster trying to outsing the local church bells.
All right, so we're getting near the last waypoint. We're then going to head off to the left. So this is that port, the economic hub for commerce, industry, and education, as it said. Got obviously a few miles to go before she'll turn that on, and then that will be the end of the tour, as she'll tell us. And then maybe for the next, till the airport, she'll give more random info again, which would be good. So it would work out pretty nicely if that will be the case. Do we have any terrain? Not really. So, and we're out like a little over 50 miles now. So that's been a trip down the river, the steel plant, some of the other things we learned, always interesting. That's why I enjoy the SayIntentions piece there. Alright, so she should be speaking soon, and then I'll finish up the narrative after that.
At our 2 o'clock, about 6 kilometers away, you'll spot Onitsha. This city is famous for its bustling market, Onitsha Main Market, which is often called the largest market in West Africa. Onitsha sits right on the banks of the Niger River, and from up here, you can see how the city sprawls out from the water like it's trying to give the river a big hug. The city has been a major trading post for centuries, dating back to when traders would arrive by canoe, long before there were any bridges. Speaking of bridges, the Onitsha Bridge, built in 1965, is a real engineering marvel and connects eastern and western Nigeria. If you listen closely, you might just hear the hum of commerce and the occasional bargaining battle echoing up to us. And with that, we've reached the final stop of our tour. Today we soared over Lakoja, caught a glimpse of the mighty Niger and Benue rivers, marveled at Ajaokuta's steel dreams, and now, Onitsha's legendary market city. Thanks for joining me on this journey. It's been a blast sharing these stories from above.
Alright, so what we have then is turn southeast across the Cross River into Cameroon. As you near the border, you may notice the trees getting thicker as you begin to enter the tropical rainforests that dominate Central Africa. Head on to our destination at Nismalan Airport in Yaounde, the capital of Cameroon. The city was founded in the late 19th century by German explorers. Occupied by troops from the Belgian Congo during World War I, it was made capital of what became a French colony after the war, and eventually the Republic of Cameroon in 1960. That's the Cliff Notes version. It's actually a lot more complicated. So that finishes up the information we have, again, unless Sarah's going to grace us with anything as we go. Pretty long leg, over 300 miles to go. About an hour, hour and a half till we're going to land. But enjoy this. Look for the tropical rainforests. I'll continue to check every little bit, make sure we don't have any mountains. We are staying near the coast. So I think, and that's relative, but, we kind of went into the interior a little bit to start coming down the Niger River, but after that, we've headed straight south. Now we're basically going on a heading of 117. Looks like 118 the way it's flying. But on Navigraph it says 117. And we've got to get to that airport. So again, I'm going to be taking a look, seeing what that looks like. So sound may be cutting in and out, but I'll try to avoid, too many changes that don't need to happen. But it's going to be a bit. I'll talk to you then. Alright, joining back up here. Trying to figure out where we want to go. I think we've got a little bit. We're going to want to go on heading. And then we're going to... What happened here? Cancel. And I think we're going to turn this way. And we should then be able to get ourselves in. And give ourselves enough room to bring it in, so we might have to get past those hills, which is interesting, because in theory we are high enough. So we'll see, but we should be able to get into the area and then turn. But at this point, we're kind of going, where are we at? 90? Not quite 90. So yeah, if I go 95, we'll fix it a little bit. Because yeah, the runway is 190. So we'll just get by these mountains here. And I think we'll be in good shape. Which is interesting, because these are close. There were a couple. Yeah, there were definitely a few that we flew over, too, that were up there. But yeah, I think Yaounde, I don't know how they say it. Is in that space there. But the airport was obviously straight in line, and it's going to be basically south of the town. It's in the southeast corner, according to the map, so definitely want to get ourselves in the right place, but yeah, I think we're good here. So we don't forget, we are going to drop our gear. So that will again start to slow us down, which it is. But I think we still have 4 or 5 miles to go. So we don't quite want to get all the way to the other side of town, but pretty darn close. And again, at this point, even at 2,500 feet, we're 1,000 feet up, or 3,500 feet, we're 1,000 feet up. So we're in a good spot for taking off and all that. You can start to see the airport coming in line here. Okay, we're gonna also flip off our TBM capability there, but yeah, we're down to 8. We're closing a little bit of distance, so we're gonna be, 3, 4, 5 miles out, maybe. We'll keep going for a bit, because again, we still have about 3 miles till we want to turn or so. And then I would assume we'll have a pretty good view of where we're coming in and where things are going. So, all right, we're across kind of the main center of the city. So probably within 7 miles when we start to turn in here. Again, we'll just get that down. Give it a little bit more, a few more seconds. All right, and I think we're going to start making the turn. And again, get ourselves to 190. Whoops. 181. That was actually it. All right, so we did go over too far. So we're again going to want to maybe go 205 or something. But we're going to back this off. There's the airport. And we'll get ourselves pulled back. Get ourselves down here pretty aggressively. Put our flaps out. That'll slow us down some. So we're kind of where we need to be. Get ourselves off autopilot. And we will now get ourselves again lined up. And we should be pretty good. All right, get the next set of flaps up. So that gives us a bit of a pop up, just because of the increased airflow. And now we're 600 feet.
500.
But yeah, should be pretty straightforward, I would think. Yeah, we're descending more than I think we want.
500.
So,
Approaching runway 19. Caution! Caution!
all right. So now we'll back off a bit. Head toward our touchdown marks. A little jumpy for sure. So pretty crazy on the frame rate. I don't quite know why. So that's going to make life a little more difficult. I do have my auto FPS and all that, so it shouldn't be that crazy on it. Back off a little bit more. Get over the threshold. Don't know that we could have set it down any more gently than that. So, all good. Get our flaps up. And roll down for the runway. But I think the terminal and everything's over there, so... Well, I don't want to go that fast. We're going like 70. Alright, there's some painted lines. I'm like, can we get off the runway? But there we go. So, exit here. We are good. So definitely happy to have the leg completed. We're continuing our journey. So, like I said, I'm just not sure that we're going to get a whole lot. They did just release an Australia update. So when we get down there, we should have some better visuals. I'm just going to kind of park ourselves in between here. All right. Oh, park. All right. November 191 Mike Alpha. We are at the gate. Again, we're on CTAF, so don't expect anyone to respond. But we will get ourselves turned off. Get everything done there. But pretty flat area given that we just flew in. My goodness, around the mountains. Just curious. I mean, in theory, we're getting 20 frames. I just don't understand why it's struggling as much as it is. But it is. But, you know, not much to see, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, you can't even see that there were mountains around here. I mean, it was literally like 10 miles away, but pretty cool. But we've got this done. If you've not liked or subscribed, please consider that. Again, these appear every Saturday morning is the goal, unless something unplanned happens. But we will continue to journey around the world and hope you will join us. I will see you next time.